qui était un peu farfelu. Et
live streaming is on.
Hi, everyone. It's Jonathan Parienti. It's a pleasure to welcome you for this session dedicated to disruptive technologies for a sustainable future in that special edition of SIGEF dedicated to the G20. We are going to be joined today by two amazing and passionate speakers in the name of Céline Bacro, who is economist and economic affairs officer at UNCTAD, and as well Dr. Hideto Tomabeci, who is a disruptive innovator and a fellow in SciLab at CMU. So let me first start by introducing Céline. So Céline is dedicated at UNCTAD to the trade, regional integration, as well as trade facilitation. She has been a long experience officer and executive in the United Nations frameworks, and she is particularly focusing at the moment in the geography of Africa and how we can facilitate and encourage integrations through trade and technological as well involvement. So Céline, thank you for joining us today, and please the floor is all yours.
Thank you very much, Jonathan, for and first congratulations for this SIGEF, which comes in a very timely moment during this COVID-19 crisis and prior to the next G20, which will be crucial for the future of the world. I'll try to be brief. There are many things that we could say about disruptive technologies, but UNCTAD is working quite intensively on this topic. UNCTAD is the I would say executing arm of the UN on trade and development, and we have a very strong focus on technology and how it affects positively but also negatively on development. Just as a reminder, that in the framework of the SDGs and the 2030 agenda, we have the SDG goal number 9, which is on industry, innovation, and infrastructure. In this context, we can see how by building the capacity for technology, it can provide the foundation for development. When we talk about technology, obviously disruptive technologies refer more to the new technologies, artificial intelligence, big data, 3D printing, nanotechnology, blockchain, biotechnology, robotics. It's very important to keep that in mind, that we are already talking about, the fourth industrial revolution with the new types of technologies, while actually the traditional technology, if I can call it like that, like internet, telecommunication, the industrial machines, are already at some point lacking in many parts of the world. So we can see that this rapid technological change has a lot of implications on sustainable development. So if I go quickly to the different aspects, I will start by the opportunities. Many opportunities, obviously. We can list among some the access to the world, the inclusiveness of technologies. Through internet connection, people are connected to what's going on. And this is by itself a great opportunity. Suddenly, you just click on a button and you are part of a community which can go from Tokyo to Buenos Aires, to New York, to Paris, to Kampala or Johannesburg. So this already, just by this simple fact, is a great benefit to humanity. We can also see the opportunities in terms of jobs on the labor market, in terms of learning, the increasing capacity for learning, online learning. And if you want some figures, we have about 100 million people who are employed in the ICT services sector. So there is an opportunity to bring jobs, to create jobs. There is also the fact that it boosts the entrepreneurship, through the platform-based economies. So it boosts the labor market. It creates more opportunities for people to create, to sell. And I'd like to remind you that in 2015, and you can imagine that now with the COVID, it's even more, the sales for the global e-commerce was about 25 trillion US dollars. 25 trillion US dollars. This was only in 2015. Now with the COVID, we can see that Amazon, or the big GAFA, have actually increased by 40% since March 2020. Increased their profits by 40% since March 2020. So that's giant, in terms of progress. We also see the technology in the industrial sectors, and this increase the opportunities and the potential for growth, for economic growth. Let's talk about precision agriculture. Let's talk about, precision agriculture by drones. You can specify where you want to target some crops and how you want to do it. So water is the same, water and irrigation, thanks to technology, energy. So this is a great boost and a great help for food security, for the competitiveness of industrial sector. And trade is also impacting very largely positively from technology. Last, we see, among also a lot of aspects, but I've taken the major ones. Last is also the medium, the technology, the role of technology as a medium for freedom of expression, for human rights. Suddenly we know what's going on in any dictatorship. We know what's going on. We know that people can be put in jail for wrong reasons or for arbitrary reasons. This is also very important, and it may not be reflected in a financial ways, but it's also very important. We have to realize that we live in all connection. We all connected, and technology plays that role to connect each other, and by ensuring and increasing the freedom, we give space to more collective action, which is very important. And I think even more now, and more in the coming decades and centuries, probably. However, we also know that there are major weaknesses. And major weaknesses, first, due to the digital divide that we can see. We can see this digital divide between, first, men and women. Men have more access to technology than women. Why? Men has the money, buys one phone in one household for the developing countries or the least developed countries. So the woman is excluded. We see the divide between the rural areas and the urban areas. When even in a country like France, when you go to the countryside, you don't have the same quality infrastructure in terms of telecommunication than if you are in the capital, Paris. So already, even in the developed countries, we see the gap between the rural and the urban areas. Then, obviously, you have the divide between the rich and the poor. The rich would have the money to buy a satellite or a satellite dish or any kind of equipment, IT equipment, to get access to technology. The big stores or the GAFA have the money to invest massively in the world, while the small shop, the small small business will have even a problem to be online, connected online, or to sell online because they don't have the electronic payment system connected, or they don't have the website. So this is incredibly increasing. This divide is increasing, and we see that. We see the decline in the world of the global middle class, while we see a boost, a booming richest class. So the poor are becoming poorer and the rich are becoming richer. So this is also due to the technology, because while we can use it in a very positive way, it also creates some bias that have to be tackled. And this is the role of the government and the international cooperation. So that's the problem. We can see also, and this was indicated in a World Bank study, that 2/3 of the jobs in the world would be susceptible to automation in developing countries. So you imagine in the next decades what it means for the labor market in these countries. So what we see now in the main policy implication, is that governments are usually incapable to speed up with the fast pace of technology. So technology now outpaces the capacity of the government to adapt to the changes which are required. I mean, look at the debates right now between Facebook and the European Union, how to regulate, technology when it goes to communication, when you don't have any materialistic basis, I mean, when you talk about Google or Facebook, they don't have like a shop that you can come and close. So how you regulate? And this is a problem, because this regulation would be needed at some point if we want to make it equal, because that's the problem. We need to distribute the benefits of technology to all. And this means that at some point there must be some intervention. When I say intervention, I'm not talking about protectionism. I'm just talking about cooperation and dialogue. At some point, decisions need to be made, negotiations need to take place to ensure that we can come to some kind of modus operandi where we don't see the losers or too many winners, and to the detriment, at the detriment, of the poor. So we really have to work on it. Then there are also some issues of security, privacy, terrorism. This also is possible because of the technology. So these problems came as a result of technology. And again, it can question and challenge the sovereignty of the government. You see how the governments are going to do their job, to do and assume their sovereign function to the benefits of the people. So these are the main challenges. So we have the opportunities on one hand, we have the weaknesses and the challenges on the other hand. So in terms of recommendation, what can we do? I think that it's actually quite clear, not easy to do, but quite clear. We need first to address the education and employment nexus. We need to make sure that children go to school, adults have the right skills and competencies to be able to have the capacity to respond and to take advantage of technology. That's the main point, and this is the role of the government. That they cannot escape from this role. The government should help education from early age to the young people who are in need for jobs. We should also help build endogenous innovation capacities. We should not depend on one country, the US or China, or, countries should be autonomous and should also build these capacities internally, because at the end of the day, they will also benefit. Otherwise, we see that it's usually in one way. For instance, e-commerce, we see that African countries usually import more than they export. So if we want to see it as a double ways, they need countries, African countries or Asian countries, they need to build the internal domestic capacities to then export. We also have to have a serious consensus between the private sector, between the GAFA, between the technological brands and the governments, but also the international or multilateral system, to agree on certain values, certain ethics, and certain principles. And this is also very important. It doesn't mean that it will be surely applied at 100%, but we still need to agree on certain principles. And then we should also promote together again, private and public sector, to work on cooperation for innovation and innovation in frontier technologies. We have to work together. It should not be an effort that is reserved to the rich people of the United States, of Europe, or the most developed countries of Asia. No, it should not be the case. It should be distributed. But for this, it means also that we need to get some negotiation and put everyone at the same table and agree. So this is very important, because otherwise we will see more and more what we see today, which means that technology leaves a lot of people behind. And this is not acceptable. So to ensure that technology leaves no one behind, we have to change the status quo. We need to agree all together, public and private, stakeholders all together, and agree on the way forward. Thank you very much. Just to finish my message, I would thank also my colleagues from UNCTAD who worked on the latest report, which is called The Impact of Rapid Technological Change on Sustainable Development, 2019 report, and I encourage every one of you to read it. Thank you. Thank you very much, Jonathan.
Céline, well, thank you very much for sharing this very in-depth overview of the dynamics of technologies and its impact. I think that what we grasp in terms of takeaways is really we need to change the status quo. That's what I quote you. We need to work together to mitigate inequalities. And I think those are very, very strong statements. As well, the inequalities are not only from a financial aspect, but they are as well, at multiple levels. And we have as well to support autonomy, relative autonomy of countries and regions. So, Céline, thank you very much for those words. If you have maybe one statement for our international audience that is listening to us for this special edition of SIGEF before G20, what will be the message? Because we hear very strongly your recommendation for the government, but what will be the message for now the citizens?
The citizens, all citizens should remember that they're all connected. We are connected. We live in the same world. We breathe the same air. When there is a virus in China, there is a virus in Europe and in the US. We definitely breathe the same air. So at least if we can take advantage of the crisis we live in, it's to realize that we are connected, we are in the same space, same planet, And when there are people who suffer, at some point we will all suffer. So we have to make sure that when we move forward together. We should not leave anyone behind. Thank you.
Well, Céline Bacro from UNCTAD, thank you very much for sharing those very profound thoughts. Thank you, Céline, very much. And now I turn to Dr. Hideto Tomabechi. We had the pleasure to meet Dr. Hideto Tomabechi in 2019 in Japan, in Tokyo.
Yes.
And the commitment of Tomabechi-san is very strong for humanity, for progress, and as well for leveraging technology in a positive way. So, Dr. Tomabechi, thank you for joining us from Tokyo today.
Yes.
And the floor is all yours.
Okay. The problem that I've been trying to solve is exactly what my previous speaker she spoke of, especially the ever increasing dichotomy of the rich and the poor, haves and have-nots in the world, and partially because of the productivity in the informational space, which I'm going to speak in my slides. So I have one solution in that direction, and plus also there are technical things which I'm not going to go into a mathematical detail, but one of the things we want to make sure that any activity in the world, on the net, on the computers, and everything is going computers on the information, the data will be there, meaning the people cannot hide it, change it, so that it could be not just, we could catch the violators, the unethical people, not now maybe, but maybe from 100 years of now even, the history will be the checking everything we do, but in while maintaining the privacy. That's basically the one of the things that the motivation of my research. And let me switch to my PowerPoint slides, which I already prepared for you. So it must be a application window.
Yes.
Are you seeing this?
We can see your slide. You can put them full screen.
Okay. So if I'm going to go a slideshow, I think it's going to go full screen. Is it?
Perfect. That's perfect, Dr. Tomabechi.
Okay, good. So this is the title of my topic is I'll explain what it is, okay? Monotonicity as a disruptive technology, and also talk about the Becci unit philosophy. That was a 30-year-old philosophy for solving the economic discrepancies. I represent the Carnegie Mellon University Scilab, but also, as you can see, I'm also representing many other organizations as well. So a little bit, the small amount of a discrete mathematical notion, monotonicity. We're not going into the mathematics at all, okay? Just a notion. Monotonicity in discrete mathematics means amount of information only increases and never decreases, okay? So it guarantees all traces of change that are not alterable. You can change the numbers, but the trace of change all remain there. So this means that if you are cheating, if you are doing any unethical behavior, anywhere in the world, we can actually see that, okay? Or in the future, by test of time, we can actually see this, okay? Typical example is like accounting book. In accounting book, paper, actual physical accounting books, if you make mistake, you cross like two lines and add the new numbers, but you're never allowed to use the erasers. So that's like the typical monotonicity in physical world. And blockchain, if you know the blockchain, that was as presented by Nakamoto paper 2008, is one example. I call it pseudo example because mathematically speaking, it's not completely monotonic, but still it's a monotonic example. I had the presentation 1990 and 1991, which used in mathematical term called directed graph unification in graph theory, which based on algorithm, my algorithm on 1990 and 1991, which attained the monotonicity, which I I'll be maybe talking about it a little bit. Okay. Okay. And the monotonicity in blockchain is I'm not going to go to detail now, but it's not purely monotonic, because it's not algorithmic or mathematical monotonicity. It's a monotonicity based on protocols and business model, like presented in 2008 paper of Nakamoto. So, like for example, in blockchain, if they fast nodes monopolize the over half the CPU power of the entire network, this fast node can add a block to any arbitrary a chain. Okay, in the rule it has to be on the longest chain, but there's no way to detect that the wrong blocks are added to a not the longest chain, for example. Or if the part of the network is delayed, then some of the nodes in or the blocks in that nodes, they could be destroyed or not maintained. Or because of the blockchain in a pure form is kind of slow. It takes at least, if you know the mathematical the complexity of the at least n log n, meaning it's kind of slow. So it is the customary that every transaction is not actually reflected in a blockchain. For example, when the one company in Japan, CoinCheck, I think 2 years ago, lost about 500 million euro amount of NEM, the cryptocurrency. They only had one wallet for 280,000 customers. So what it was, they had their own wallet in the blockchain, but for entire 280,000 customers, they only had their own database. So the transactions were done within their database, what they call off-chain software. But the actual transactions were never reflected on the blockchain. So the hacker had to only hack one secret key, the wallet, and got the 500 million euro amount of money from the CoinCheck wallet. Okay. Of course, there are the blockchains that are inside the firewall, like the private chains. Once the blockchain is not public, there's no way to guarantee the monotonicity. So, and there are the firewalls. If you are inside the firewall, even if you do anything, there's no way to verify from the outside. Okay, so it's the blockchain itself in 2008 Nakamoto paper can be monotonic, but in reality, actual implementation it is actually not monotonic. Unification and generalization is just a little mathematical notion. So please just remember that in graph unification or the algebraic notion of unification is a mathematical monotonicity. I'm not going into that detail. And let me talk a little bit about bit unit. It was designed as currency intended for exchange of values in cyberspace. Early implementation were back in 1992 to 1998 when I was an associate professor at the Tokyo University and also R&D, the vice president at the Just System. It was implemented as currency for avatar-based cyber world in edutainment domain. And it was Japan's first digital currency with pure monotonicity. It could even be the world's first digital currency with a monotonicity. It was presented to some groups in Silicon Valley, etc., in 90s for entry to US market back then. The basic philosophy that this part is the part that I would like to really strongly stress is that currency bit unit is only for cyber world only. Exchange with a fiat currency like US dollar, yen, euro is prohibited in our philosophy. Why? Because of what we call a law of diminishing marginal cost in information space. I am saying derivative tangent of cost function C X for goods and services simply means that if you're making cars, then if you made 10 million cars, but the cost for 10 million one car is the same as cost of 10 million car, right? But because the mass scale of production mass scale may decrease the cost, but every time you add the one commodity, cost is never zero. But in terms of a cyberspace, like if you're on a net service provider, if you have a server port 80 waiting for some access, get them post, you don't care if it's 10 people coming or 100 people coming. And if you're fast enough, you don't care if 1,000 people, 10,000 people coming, meaning that the marginal added cost in the informational space goes down rapidly. Productivity of value created in cyberspace far surpasses physical space because of this marginal, the cost going downward in informational space. Therefore, values of cyberspace currency will far pass real currency, because if the cyberspace currency are involved with productivity in the cyberspace, then its productivity is a lot larger than the real currency. So the 1990s, my proposal was we must prohibit cyberspace currency to buy land, food, natural resources, etc. Otherwise, we may create huge discrepancies. This was based on my first personal experiences back then. I was Mitsubishi Estate. The company was the largest liquidity at hand, but by then in the entire world, it was the largest real estate company in Japan, meaning back then it was the largest real estate company in the world. And in 1989, we acquired the Rockefeller Center. Actually, we acquired the holding company called the Rockefeller Group, Inc. And I was a finance officer for them. And I was a team member for the Rockefeller Center acquisition. And that was in 1989. And back then, of course, you know, the Japanese bank loans were uncontrolled, meaning the financial world is a very good example of the zero marginal cost. In order to create next money, you only need to print it. And especially in the cyber currency, there's no cost at all. Also, from 1992 to 1998, I was involved with Japan's largest software maker called Just Systems. And we had a software called Ichitaro as a word processor. Our market share was larger than Microsoft back then, Word. And so in Japan, it's a Just System, entire world is Microsoft, or back then we're creating CDRs. But our marginal cost is just making one more CDR. And it was diminishing so rapidly, meaning once we monopolize the market, we can monopolize forever. So finance and software, two major areas with that almost zero marginal cost increase. I was the officer in charge of these activities. And I foresaw back then that world wealth discrepancy was easily foreseeable because of this issue. So how was the prices represented in base unit economy? Basically, it's a dual pricing system, meaning yen, euro, dollar as a fiat currency and base unit. For example, if you're selling Ferrari, it could be 40,000 USD plus 300,000 BU, and Toyota 20,000 USD and 20,000 BU, meaning pricing in actual fiat currency like USD is based on cost. You know, cost is easily verifiable, and it's recommended, but much for food and energy, etc. And no restriction of pricing BU, base unit, because it is added value in the informational space. So we don't know how in much the brand name and all the other trustworthy valid attributes of a Ferrari is larger than Toyota, but a Ferrari can decide whatever the added value to be in the informational space. So instead of selling like a 400,000 euro dollar the Ferrari, you're actually selling 40,000 USD and the 300,000 BU. That's basically the rule. And no restriction price in BU. So it was originally designed for exchange of application software, online games. We were actually creating the cyber world back then for entry into the world market from Japan. How base unit was transferred, issued only one central bank as an issuing agency, and creating token graph. This is different from Monotonicity, different from Nakamoto's style, based on graph unifications. Tokens are directed graph, and every transaction is performed at the unification of a token graph. So there's no central ledger like a blockchain, but each coin contains the unalterable history. And the multiple copies of token graph can be kept. You can put on the memory, or you can print it out on as a paper. But as soon as one copy is used, all the other copies will disappear in constant time. And every graph is time-stamped. And as soon as one token graph is unified with a transaction graph, resulting graph is time-stamped. And this means, there's no dual payment. Centralized issues, centralized recording, centralized timestamp, distributed transactions. Transactions are distributed, but issuance is centralized. Since graph node itself is a coin and not ledger, like Nakamoto, double payment is inherently impossible. And because Nakamoto-style blockchains are pseudo-monotonic and unscalable, I'm not going to talk about this in this lecture, but cyber currencies are used, and also current cyber currency are used for monetary gain in physical world as well. This could be a problem. Now world understands the importance of prohibiting exchange of cyber value with physical values. One current project which is actually reviving the Bitcoin philosophy, and as my end lecture, let me introduce this. It's called Coaching Unit for professional coaches. I represent the International Coaching Associations, and we have a coaching unit for our clients. And the clients online is now increased because of COVID. My basic rule for the coaching unit is one: flow of knowledge is always accompanied by flow in coaching unit. Basic rule number two: coaching unit is only created as a loan. So there's no mining, only as a created as a loan and as a credit issue. Basic rule three: eligible for new loan after establishing credit in CU space. The establishing CU credits is simply by having a track record of a repayment in the CU. Basic rule four: this is important as a Bitcoin philosophy. No exchange with the real currency and equivalents. No exchange with yen, euro, dollar. So this is how it is made. CU Central Bank is sole issuer of CU. Coaches are declared plan next year coaching and lecture hours. Like, let's say I'm going to coach 200 hours. Then when you declare it, Central Bank will loan to the equivalent amount of a coaching unit because there's a rank like ABC, how expensive you are. And coaches price coaching fee by combination of CU and yen. Pricing in CU is arbitrary, like in Ferrari case. But pricing yen is based on estimated cost in yen, like your rent, the electricity divided by number of the clients. Coaches can also add yen premium as a transition, because right now you can't buy anything with a coaching unit. So you might want to add yen permission as a transition period compensations. And transfer model is basically a BU model, bit unit model. Client pay coaches in combination of a coaching unit and yen. If clients have no coaching unit, no problem. The person can attend the free lectures and provided by coaches. Then you can earn CU. Remember, the flow of information accompanies with the flow of a coaching unit. So if you attend the lecture, attend the free lecture, and because the information you are receiving, you are also receiving the coaching unit. So clients can receive coaching unit by either attending free or even paid lectures, or actually attending coaching sessions. Coaches start repaying CU loan as coaching activity progress. Coaches can apply for further loan after establishment repaying credits. Client can earn, but coaches can also attend the classes and earn CU too. No interest, no collateral, only plans for future coaching or lecture hours are needed. Benefit is very simple. Clients can receive coaching session with small amount of yen, only to cover like a rent, electricity of the coaches divided by the number of clients. Clients can pay CU by attending free lectures and receiving CU, so they don't need to pay yen, only the fraction of a cost. Coaches can perform coaching activities charging actual yen of course, if they can charge, their actual cost can be covered by clients. Currently, yen premium is allowed because you can buy anything with a coaching unit. Yet, in the future, yen premium is probably not needed if similar services become prevailing. I think it is scalable to any educational areas. And I think it's a good way to provide education opportunities for have-nots in the world. Physical cost only in fiat currency, but you need to scale of, I think, is to enter world economy. If we separate currency for physical cost and informational added value, I think higher education can be given at cost basis. Flow of information always accompanies the flow of cyber currencies. Meaning you can attend like a government paid lecture or lectures by like people who are listening to this audio. People can earn BU because they're receiving the education, meaning receiving the information. People can earn BU model currency by attending government paid or volunteer based education, and they can pay BU model currency needed for higher education. That 90% or more of our earning, regardless of your job, okay, maybe sometimes 98% in areas like my areas of our jobs are earned in cyberspace and not physical activities. So the values and informations can be exchanged without currency for physical space. If we expand this model to world economy, have-nots in the world can buy needs at cost. Of course, if you want exotic cars, super high-res audios, videos, super high services, and hotels, you can always pay the added value in informational space, because these super added exotic parts are all informational value, not the actual physical cost. So you can earn in cyberspace and pay for these, but anybody can get the basic services and commodities in very small amount of cost of actual physical currencies. Conclusion: if you allow values gain in informational space to purchase food, water, land, natural resources, etc., gaps of haves and have-nots will be infinitely larger. Informational space simply means your activity using typing your PCs on the net, whatever your productivity. Most of the productivity of the modern ages are already inside the informational space. And there's, again, the marginal cost is infinitely diminishing in this area. So your productivity is infinitely larger. So that those especially net-oriented, the businesses and people who earn a lot of added value, but this added value should remain in informational space. This should not be transferred into yen or dollar or euro, especially to buy food, water, land, and natural resources, etc. That's the proposal. I propose to divide currency for physical informational space with mathematical solutions based on unification, graph unification, and monotonicity. 30 years ago, now machines are fast enough. Now machines are about 1 billion times faster than the time that I was proposing this. And fast enough, and world now understand concept of cyber currency like Bitcoin. Basically, model can be, I think, reintroduced to the world. Thank you.
Dr. Tomabuchi, thank you very much for sharing this groundbreaking aspect of innovation. That's how I see it. I think what is important to understand, and what I think is paramount vision, it's there are different worlds that can be, like combining themselves to facilitate reduction of inequalities in the real world. And I think this is very powerful, because what has been done right now with the different initiatives, especially in the blockchain segment, has to actually create new ways, but new ways that are still in the same world. And with the conversion and the convertibility into fiat currencies, it creates a lot of undue interest, which leads to many problems, many greed instead of inclusion. So, Dr. Tomabuchi, maybe one question will be, because you started, as you said, this path for innovation for the world in the 1990s. So maybe earlier you were already thinking about it. So first of all, what is the source of inspiration? Where is it coming from? You are earlier on Nakamoto. So what is coming from? Where is it coming
from? I know. Okay. First, now our friends like a JP Morgan and so forth in New York City, they are really, really rich. And our GAFA and Microsoft GAFM, their friends, they're considered really, really rich. And a lot of people in the world are criticizing them. Oh, they are monopolizing the world wealth. I experienced in 1980s, Japan, only a few people remember, was in a real bubble economy back then. The Mr. Kenichi Omae, the McKinsey Japan president back then, said, if you collateralize land in Tokyo only, entire Tokyo land, you can buy United States for 25 times. Okay, so I was like a JP Morgan BP back then. We were winning, but what? That's only creating the discrepancy in rich and poor. Now, of course, I was on the software side. We're winning. It was before Google and Amazon, where Microsoft in the world, just system us in Japan. We're winning because there's no marginal cost in printing next CDR. If you're on port-based, server-based, there's no marginal cost at all. Okay, now people criticizing GAFA, you're monopolizing. Of course, I experienced that back in 1990s. Now, I think like a crypto, okay? Once a lot of people interested in crypto to make more fiat currency like a euro. Now we are past that, okay? Now, I think we can contribute to the world to solve the world problems. Because like a Facebook Libra, because it's convertible to US dollar, of course that US, New York, especially US financial, the organization like JP Morgan and so forth, and all the central banks in the world will hate them. Because they know now they are the not only ones who's benefiting the law of infinity diminishing marginal cost. Now the Libra is here. Let's go past that for people of the world. We use our knowledge and technology only to exchange information in cyberspace, because most of money I spent, for example, if you are let's say I don't know what your price for highest ranking sponsors for this event, let's say this is 10,000 euro, okay? You don't have to pay in euro. You pay in your currency, earn informational space, because what we earn is in informational space. What we spend is in informational space. There's no need for fiat, actual euro, dollar, yen kind of currency to go in between. So I think us, the crypto leaders, I think it's about time to say, okay, we're not going to exchange into fiat currency. We keep within ourselves. But because we are all connected, whatever you want to spend, we can provide with you with the informational coin. We don't need a yen or euro. If that is possible, one of us can be infinitely the rich, but still not affecting the natural resources or creating the actual division of rich and the poor. We have a division of rich and poor in informational space. So what? Because there's no division of rich and poor in actual physical space. So everyone in the world can eat. Okay, 2 billion people in the world is on the verge of starvation. Okay, that's crazy. And we can provide food, shelter, anything at cost to these people once we shift our spending and earning in information space. So this was my idea in 1930s, because I experienced the JP Morgan back then. Well, actually, our partners were Morgan Stanley, but not JP Morgan, but similar. And of course, we were the GAFA back then. And I saw all the problems. So I invented the solution back then. Again, I said machines were too slow, only used for AI and natural language processing. But machines are 10 billion and 1 billion times faster. Okay, my iPhone is faster than my supercomputer I use for my research. Now we can do this, okay? Even better, the blockchain is good, okay? As long as everyone is honest. You know that if there's the monopolizer of 50% of CPU power, that's a cheating. Yeah, but if you can, even with the current Nakamoto style blockchain, as long as we change the data structure to monotonic algorithm like mine, then we can catch them later. Okay, so transparency, monotonicity, and security, these are the strengths of a blockchain. And we should maintain that and provide the further the technology into this. Plus our philosophy from now on. Let's not convert the crypto with the actual fiat currency, but within the crypto, we create the economy. And so that we leave the division of the rich and the poor smaller and smaller and smaller in the future. And I think the coaching unit can be applied to any educational system in the world. You attend the compulsory education, government paid education, volunteer-based education, you earn the unit because you receive the inflow of information. Now you can spend that for further inflow of information with the further added value. Okay, that's basically my idea, and I'm sure the Jonathan is expert in this area. You understand this, what I'm talking about, 250% already.
Yes, well, Dr. Tomabechi, for me, it's like for me, it's amazing. But the question, the point, is not between me and you, because we are a bit special, and
Sure.
some other are special in the world like us. But the question is, do you think at this moment humanity and their stakeholders are ready to change the mindset, to adopt and embrace this system or other similar initiatives that are actually fundamentally aiming to build something more fair and more inclusive for everyone on the planet? So what are your thoughts on that?
I think yes. Okay, ultimately yes. Okay, the strategy could be by gradual, but ultimately yes, because the stakeholders who are making a lot of money in the informational space. So let's say if you are vice president of Google, okay, with a lot of stock options, for example, for them there is no risk because they are still going to be very productive in the informational space. Instead of getting a stock option which is tradable in USD in New York Stock Exchange, you get some currency, okay, Google currency, which can be only used in the cyberspace, or Google currency has an exchange real time with the Amazon currency. But with Amazon currency, even though it's an Amazon, when you buy a commodity from Amazon, you have to but dual pricing tax, okay? The majority of it is the information value, and the small amount is the cost. Cost calculation is like a EU value added system from the supply chain. When you're cascading through the supply chain, the invoices are going. So it's simple, okay, and basically there's no penalty, okay. This is what we should try to persuade people. So let's go to buy shops where they have a dual pricing, and I spend my cyber currency for that, and people can earn there because most of the expenditure I actually make, okay. If you want to buy a Ferrari Lamborghini, they are perfect example, right? They have all the intellectual properties, all the brand values and everything, but that's all cyberspace. So I spend my cyberspace productivity to buy them. But if you are from area with of have nuts, they don't need Ferrari, and they can buy whatever, okay, for at cost basically. And so meaning like there are all the discussions of like a social welfare. Social welfare for the government, it's going to be a cost, okay? For example, so for the large countries like European nations, US, Japan, we only need to support them at cost on actual fiat currency. In order for them to learn, we are going to provide them free education or provide them with a free virtual units, and they can get a higher educations. Okay, so once people understand the impact, there's nobody loses. Okay,
I think,
of course, there has to be a strategy, step by step to going forward. But I wanted to share this with you, with everyone in the audience, and of course, with Jonathan as well.
I think, Dr. Tomabechi, I think it's the name of the session is Disruptive Technologies for a Sustainable Future. I think this is exactly what you are sharing with us. As well, this is, coming from a very long experience that you lead at the time of a bubble in Japan in terms of valuation, which is what the status now of the world. If we look at the stock markets, which are at the top in United States, for instance, while how can we be at the top while we are, suffering 2020, which is a very challenging year for 90% or 95%, if not 99% of world citizens and entrepreneurs. So the discrepancies of the system are, I think, widening and very strong. And what you propose is a reset. It's a change. So there is one question from Akira that is on the chat. Akira is saying, combination with basic income, Bechi unit, only a world can be made. I wonder how we can control disparity of wealth in terms of BU, in terms of Bechi unit. So Dr. Tomabechi, my understanding is the Bechi unit wealth will be about, like how much people are eager to learn and how much they are eager to share knowledge and information. So I understand that aspect, but what are your thoughts, maybe your thoughts as a creator and founder of the Bechi unit?
Basically, the questions like basic income is one way, okay? But if you think about the basic, in most of the nations, the income tax system is basically a proportionate system where you pay taxes more when you're higher. So mathematically speaking, basic income, this is a zero line and you're crossing like this, is basically shifting the entire curve downward. So that's a fair system, okay? Because if you simply say, I'm going to give the 10,000 euro to everybody, right? Then yeah, but some people are more need, maybe 20,000 needed, but some people may not need that much. So just the simple fixed pricing of a basic income is not a solution, okay? On a proportional taxing system, you are going to provide the downward pressure on the actual income tax curve. You can do that in the fiat currency, but with the education, the like a virtually kind of idea, you can do that at the cost. Okay, most of the food people still want the cost to be covered, so that the basic income can be combination of a cost and then an arbitrary different curve for everybody, meaning AI massively parallel processing. Right now, we can provide a different kind of a curvature on the informational space. Let's say this guy went to many of the schools we provide for free online, for example, earned alert of a Bechi unit, motivated. Let's provide them with more Bechi unit. And individually speaking, okay, I think so. So the need is of course added. So I think informational space currency can be catered toward the needs of individuals more closely than other systems. Plus, we never lose. Okay. Oh, sorry, we gave you too much information unit. But if the guy person is not going to a higher education, he doesn't use it. Okay, it's not wasted anyways. But we always need a small amount of actual physical currency. But if the system is made, it's only the fraction of what it is needed because it is always at the cost. And of course, this is not the topic for today, but some of the other things that I've been working on is a system like this can use for representing the people's opinions in like a Congress, Parliament also. Instead of voting into a specific the congressperson who can vote into a specific issues on like the bills, for example. And different people can have different say, okay? Some people is more weighted and some people are not weighted. So it's not only a currency. The monotonicity can be used on any data. I invented the bit unit original graph unification algorithm not only for cryptocurrency but for any data, like your relational database. Okay, if your relational database, if somebody erases the data, changes, it's hard to detect. But if the basic data structure is made monotonic, even with the current, relational database systems, you can still catch the violators, for example. So you can use it for any, like Japan just passed the new law to digitize the government systems from now. So going simply binary is a kind of a dangerous path without putting up monotonicity in it, because small amount of people can control the flow of information. So we always have, like a blockchain's basic idea, always transparency and the traceability, especially a pure monotonicity, one step beyond the Nakamoto style monotonicity. And of course security. Those three are basics, and not only in crypto but any data that will be used in the days to come. And this should be provided automatic to people in needs. The previous speaker said, the rich guys are more informational powered, poor guys are not. We should provide them with this as an infrastructure, basic infrastructure, especially if I think it's a good idea to start with education.
Absolutely, and that's why the coaching unit of the Gucci vision. I think this is a very concrete and very pragmatic.
Yes.
I think this is a great step. Dr. Tomabeci, as you know, this is a conference which is happening just before the G20.
Yes.
And so we would like to receive from you, maybe your insight or recommendation that could be, like shared to government around the world. So in few words, what would be maybe your thoughts to make the world better if we have like to convey this message to government around the planet?
I think exactly the G20 summit, the notion is basically the concept of one, of course, because of the COVID. Okay, how are we going to revive the entire world while maintaining the health of people? But also this division of discrepancy of rich and the poor is always especially with this summit, is a central topic of a G20. I think one of the danger is, for example, Japanese government recently announced the Bank of Japan may go to a digital coin, so-called central bank digital currency, CBDC. And that's on one hand is good, because that's what we've been doing in the crypto world. And we know how the productivity will increase. Like a Bank of England once said, if the central bank issues the digital currency, the GDP will go up 3% and so forth and so forth. We know the advantages, but everything I said about current discrepancy in the law of diminishing cost in the information space applies to central bank digital currency even, because this will be combined with the productivity in informational space. So G20 is, and very smart people will think about, like in Japan, we just started the e-government, the Ministry of Digital is going to be created. So very smart people will go for a higher productivity with digital informational. But we have to always remember, if we aren't careful, it will only increase the discrepancy of the rich and the poor. Back in 1980s, of course, we had a bubble economy in Japan because Japanese banks created the loans infinitely. Now the derivative is a lot larger. The entire the derivative is larger than the 10 times larger than the combined GDP of the entire world, maybe 100 times now. And so the once we are honest and straightforward and try to promote the good values, good systems to everybody. But while we are doing it, without knowing there's a danger, we actually increase the discrepancy in the rich and the poor. And Google, Amazon, Facebook, and of course the Apple, they never were intending to increase the gap of rich and the poor. But the result is everybody is criticizing them. And because so we have to be very careful. I think so the G20, when smart people are joining together, we try to boost the productivity of everybody, but we have to make sure that we are, without intending it, enlarging the gap of the rich and the poor and the haves and have-nots. That's my message.
I think, Tomabechi, that's a great wisdom in that message, because as you say, I think people want to try their best, and the best sometimes is very simple. People want to increase value, increase wealth, increase productivity, as you say, and unintentionally, because they are not thinking the second or third or fourth effects. The result is actually more discrepancies and disparities. So I think here there is a very profound message. And yes. Maybe to conclude, Dr. Tomabechi, what will be your message now to the citizens of the world that will be listening to us?
So please watch us, okay? Our high-tech people, scientists, the top engineers, and your government leaders, like coming to G20 summit. And make sure that we're on the right track, okay? The one solution the proposal, very simple solution, okay? If we divide the currency for information and the actual physical world, GAFA problem never happened, okay? And the New York Wall Street earning the 99.9%, 99% of what else didn't happen. So this is one solution that is technical possible, as I demonstrated 30 years ago. Now people understand, okay? If I say digital currency 30 years ago, what? Like, monotonicity, what? But now people understand, and the danger also. I think that's watch us, watch your government leaders, and always say, oh, maybe you're going the wrong way, okay? Good intentions, okay?
Dr. Tomabechi, last time we checked, like your last intervention in Japan was the record views, on YouTube. So this talk we had today, I think, is very advanced.
Yes.
We are very grateful for you taking the time. It's late in Tokyo. Yes. For joining us and being always, supportive in your thought. Yes. And in your action for the world. And yes. Thank you again for bringing, like your supportive hand yes. with our team and SIGEF and all the initiatives that you are supporting yes. around the world. Dr.
Yes,
Tomabechi, thank you very much. Dear friends listening to us around the world. So we had more than 30 countries represented. So thank you very much for joining us. The live stream and recorded will be soon online. We invite you to watch it again, because there is profound teachings, and we are going as well to recommend you to share it to your friends, because it's very profound. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, and thank you for sending back row that joined us from UNCTAD, from United Nations body that is in charge of trade and cooperation. It was a great talk today, and the conference continue in a few hours. Thank you very much. Yes. All the best, Dr. All the best.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, I log out. Bye.
Yes. We can close the live stream.